Hello there, welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. My name's Stuart Wellborn, I'm a British working class author and former therapist, and I'm joined by my regular guest, Wa-Na-Nee-Che from Turtle Island, more commonly known as America. Hello, viewers and listeners. I just want to make an announcement for those that follow us on YouTube. This will not affect podcast subscribers at any of the podcast places, but only those that are on YouTube. If you listen or watch this on YouTube, we are moving these episodes over to the Human Circle of Life specific channel. That's where all future episodes will be. This one will be on my channel, my personal channel, which is where you've been watching it before, and also on the Human Circle of Life one. But after this week, all episodes will be on the Human Circle of Life YouTube channel. So if you want to unsubscribe from my channel, that's fine if you don't want to see my shit. But if you want to keep watching these podcasts, then subscribe to the new channel, and there will be a link in the description so that you can get to it easily. Right, let's get on with it. Hello, Wa-Na-Nee-Che. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, nice and cool today.
You're cool. We've got it cool as well. We've just had it scorchio over here.
Yeah, we've been in the hundreds.
We've, yeah, as I've mentioned before, I'm Celsius, so we've had 32 degrees Celsius over here last at the weekend.
Yeah,
So that must be about 100, is it?
yeah, pretty close to that. Well, 98, something like that.
Right. Okay. We've got some more questions to put out to you in a moment. We've got another one from Rangman 197. We've got some from Linda, but you were just talking about a vision you had where people have got the choice. You were saying about the light side, dark side, and why they're not going asking questions. Would you like to repeat that now that we're actually recording?
Okay, well, one of the things that's happening right now is that people are being given a chance, a chance to decide whether they go to the light or whether they go to the dark side. If you look around in almost every culture, there is connection through their ceremonies. Back then, they had meaning and they practiced their ceremonies, but their ceremonies went with them in their daily life. Nowadays, people said, I guess I got an agreement here by one of the dogs on what I was saying. Nowadays, people go to ceremonies, and as long as they're there at the ceremony, they're into it. But the minute they leave the ceremony, they forget about it until the next one. One has to walk their pathway every day. And when you look at certain things and certain ceremonies, certain followings of certain belief systems, people would sit there and they had human beings who were the head of those religious ceremonies, no matter what you look at, whether it be Druid, whether it be uh, Catholic, whether it be Protestant, whether it be Hinduism, they only seem to pick people who are human to lead them. In the indigenous way, God led us, which we call the Creator. We followed the Creator's rules and we lived them every day. We respected all the things that the Creator put upon the earth and we honored them. But it seems like today people are only good enough as long as they're watching like a television program, or they get all excited, but as soon as they turn the television program off, back to normal. So we have people that have to make a commitment. And the whole idea is that we're getting warnings here and there of trying to tell people to wake them up. But it seems like they're in a coma and they just don't seem to be waking up.
Is there? It's awkward for people because you and your ancestry, you've never, even though you've obviously had all the horrendous massacres and that when Europeans came over, you've always maintained that connection all the way through. Whereas Europeans, we've had a long break from any indigenous teachings. We've had religion thrown upon us. And then, people are trying to connect back to the older ways,
Mhm.
but they struggle because it's not, they've not had that connection for a few hundred years. Is there anything that you could advise people that they can do to live it daily? Because I try to live it daily, but then Western life gets in the way.
Yeah. It's a philosophy of religion, in fact, that basically takes us away from our connection because they make all their connection, first of all, they are representatives of God. And they have the right to tell us what to do.
Mm,
And just to give you an example, look at how many people have made Jesus Christ a God. And maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, but they've made Jesus Christ a God. Jesus Christ was a messenger.
yeah.
He came from God to tell us that we have to learn to start loving the Creator, loving ourselves, and loving other people, and loving all the things that were created for them. And they just seem to feel that all they have to do is to go to church one day a week, and all of a sudden they feel their obligations.
Yeah. I think the problem is a lot of people who are Christians, not all, but a lot of them don't actually read the teachings of Jesus.
No.
They go to church, maybe they sit there, they probably snooze through the sermon, and some of that could be Old Testament anyway. But if you actually look at what Jesus was teaching and then
Hmm.
went and asked a Christian, why aren't you doing this? They wouldn't even be aware of the teaching in the first place.
Hmm. And the whole idea comes down to when you talk about Jesus, probably a majority of them see Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
Why did like to see him suffer? Let him go home.
Yeah. Remember that the comedian Bill Hicks,
Uh-huh.
part of his stand-up routine was, I'm pretty sure the last thing that Jesus would want to see if he came back would be a cross.
Yeah. It's just like again, Darley Parton said, let Jesus off the cross. We need the one. It's going to be cold this winter. But people have to start realizing there's a connection. But because all of a sudden, like say for instance, your movie star, your rock concerts, we seem to sit there and make them out of gods rather than seeing them as human beings. It's like when people sit with me and they sit there kind of at awe with me, and I said, "Look, I'm a human being. You shouldn't be at awe with me. You should be able to talk to me just like another human being, and I can give you answers. I'm not on a pedestal." And I said, I can't, I'm not unapproachable. I said, "You can approach me. I'm a human being. I'm like you. I'm nothing special. All I do is I give you a message." And I said, "They have to be, the message I give has to be special, not me."
Hmm. Wise words. I I mentioned him in some earlier episodes, but Professor David Hawkins, who's been a big inspiration in my kind of research and work, mentions different levels of consciousness and that people above a certain level are your teachers, at a certain level, higher level of consciousness. And then we come down to people at the lowest levels who are in shame, guilt, and that's the predominant levels. Um, but all of these people are human and on a journey. He kind of basically says
Yeah.
that if you believe in the reincarnation, as you call it, recycling, that somebody at these lower levels is here to learn a lesson to move up to a
Hmm.
higher level of consciousness. But the teachers, there's only so many of them on the planet, he says.
Yeah. It's like yeah, we're going to say that, you know, there's a purpose in life. Let's simplify it by saying there's a city in the middle of your country, either be the United States or wherever you're at, and people want to go there. Don't they come from different directions? But yet, when they finally reach the destination, it's the same thing.
Yes. Many pathways to the same destination.
Yeah. So don't worry about if you're on a pathway that will lead you to the answers, then don't worry about anybody else's pathway. Just worry about your own. But a lot of people try to convince people that their pathway is right. Therefore, give me money and I'll teach you.
Yes. Yes. You can't teach somebody else your path because it's not theirs, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we get into some of the questions then that I've got?
Okay.
Oh, actually, one more thing. Because whilst we're on that topic, it's hard for people to stay on their path with all the doom and gloom that's going on in the world. You know, like what's just happened at the weekend with your president.
Oh
I don't want
yeah.
to get into the politics of the attacks or anything, but those kind of events make it very hard for people to not tune into the negativity. How do we not tune into that level of negativity?
Well, there are quite a few that, again, they don't go into that negativity, but they approach it the wrong way. You can't sit there and protest and protest and protest. If you don't cut the head of the snake off, it doesn't do any good. So people finally got to realize the way you change things, you get rid of those people that are basically doing the things that's causing problems. You don't just say, oh, you're doing something wrong, do something about it.
And if you are incapable of actually doing anything, like I'm over here in the UK, for example, I can't
Uh-huh.
go over to your country, well, and rid you of your problems, can I?
Uh-huh.
So mentally, how can we switch from being focused on the negative to focusing on a path, shall we say?
Take the fear out of your head.
And how do you do that?
Well, let's say it this way. You got 10,000 slaves, one guy with a whip, and one guy with the whip is the boss. He controls 10,000. And if they got the fear out of their head, what would happen to that guy that had the whip? He wouldn't be there anymore, would he? So everything is based on control of the mind and control of fear. And people have to basically, again, get out of their head, get into their life force energy, because their life force energy, once they connect, they will get the answers. You just simply, in just say in the indigenous world, if it's, they made a person a leader and they call him the chief. Well, if the chief made excuse me, if the chief basically made a lot of mistakes, what happened? They just got rid of the chief and put another one, one that basically would follow what the people want. But it seems like in the world today, they get too afraid to try to put people who are no longer leaders out of business. So they got to take the fear out of their minds, and they have to go to the strength of their heart, and the life force energy and the life source energy will take over the mind and tell them exactly what they need to do.
Yes, so get your truth from life force energies and
Uh,
the source rather than from Facebook.
okay. One of the things before we get to that one question, I want to talk about drumming.
Okay, let's talk about
Uh,
drumming.
yeah, you can go all over the world and you find people drumming and singing. I remember I was sitting over in Stanford at a conference, not a conference, but a kind of a workshop type thing. And I was there with White Crane, another spiritual. And we were sitting inside the auditorium, and a bunch of women were on stage playing their drums. And they were playing one particular drum beat. And I looked at White Crane, and White Crane looked at me, and we had the same idea. Let's get out of here. So we walked out, and we started laughing. They said, "Did you get the message of the drums?" I said, "Yeah." "Did you?" I said, "Yeah." They were doing a fertility drum beat. I said, and we were the only men in there. So we booked out. And when we walked out, it was a red moon. So that's how
Significance
the
of the
mirror
red
bell.
moon?
A red moon basically is a woman's time.
Ah,
Uh, so anyway, has become, in a sense, so important that they forget the meaning of drumming. They just beat their drum like the heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody sits there and thinks, Mother Earth. No, the drum beat is the drum beat of when you're in the womb of your mother. That's what that drum beat means. It reconnects you to your mom and yourself. So that's all that drum does. Now, if you utilize the drum, you sit there with the drum and you visualize what you're going to ask. And then you visualize that and you automatically let your hand grab the drumstick and hit the drum. And the drum won't be a heartbeat. The drum beat will be a certain speed, a certain sound. How loud, how quiet it is determined on who is going to come of the life force energies to tell you what you need to connect with. And like if you sit there sometimes when people have, say, fast hearts or skips in their heart, and you take the drum and you hit it basically boom, 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 real strong, it'll actually hit the heart and it'll go back to balance.
wow.
Now, if you're doing a healing, you don't go boom, 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 boom. That's not a healing. That's a connection to your mother. Now, if you want the healing to be there, you hit the drum as hard as you can and you let the vibration go into that individual. You go maybe 3 or 4 times, then you hit it again and you go back and forth. And it's a healing sound that will help people heal, help people to connect. And then if you're talking like, say, if you want to get a message to the creator, it's boom, 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 because that's a powerful, and you're saying that the creator is the power of all things. Now, if you're calling, they say a thunderbird, thunderbird, go boom, 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 boom. That's the thunderbird. The bear would be boom, 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 boom. So they have to understand that the drum is a messenger, and the way they drum it is what they're going to be asking. But they have to sit and they have to relax. They have to get out of their mind. They have to get into their heart. And the heart will tell them through the life force energy what beat they need to do on that drum.
Now, is this something? This is just a thought that came to me as I was listening to everything you were saying there. Is this something that you can teach people, say perhaps
Mhm.
in a video, for example?
Uh-huh. But yeah, but they never teach them the drums is a messenger. They just decide they like the way the beat goes, so everything goes, you know. And like say for instance, we go to a powwow and they're stringing their drum. Well, that's for entertainment. That's for you to basically follow what dance comes into your heart. And all the dances that they do, they learn from nature. So when they do the grass dance, they go in like the grass does. When they do the grouse dance, they go down to the earth and they do that type of dance. The eagle dance, the bear dance. They're all basically dances that they were taught to them by nature. So when they want to honor that particular energy that came to them that showed them how to dance and how to beat the drum for that particular song, that's their connection.
Okay, I don't know if this is the right question, but how many different drum beats are there?
Oh,
It's a
geez,
guess, a rough guess.
probably 144,000.
Yeah, that would be a long video.
Oh yeah. So that's why I said that they have to just get into their heart, get into their feelings, and let their heart bring the picture to them, and then their hand will automatically beat the drum the way it's supposed to be beaten. It may take them a while to actually connect that way, but once they connect, they'll never lose it.
Well, back to my thought as what I was referring to a minute ago. Maybe that's something that you should create as a kind of video workshop that people could buy from you so the money
Mhm.
goes to the human circle of life. Something to
Yeah.
think about at another time. Shall we get on to questions?
Yeah. Well, one other thing too. I did do a workshop on drumming. Only one. Only one. Yeah. Only one. And the two people that had their drums, I put them kind of like in a state of being. And all of a sudden she started drumming, but all of a sudden she started crying because the emotion was there. The connection was there that she'd never felt before. And it was so joyful that tears were just rolling down her eyes. And then she stopped. She said, I connected. So the whole idea, I was just doing kind of like experiment, even though I knew the answer. I just wanted to see what kind of effect it would have. And it had the right effect on those two people drumming. They really connected to it.
Maybe, and we'll discuss this maybe tomorrow when we're chatting again, but maybe you could run a Zoom workshop
Uh-huh.
live and teach people drumming, obviously
Hmm.
for a fee, because although you're giving a lot away for free, you want to raise some money for the human circle of life. But we can chat
Yeah.
about that. That's something you could think about doing.
Yeah, because Matthew, no, he has a whole setup where he can actually do the videoing himself.
There
So
we
we
go.
get something,
Perfect.
you know.
We'll fine tune it, but that's something viewers and listeners to
Mhm.
listen out for at some point. There could be a drumming
Yeah.
workshop with drumming with Wa-Na-Nee-Che.
Yeah. Now on to Lemuria,
On
right?
to, yes, Rangman
Uh,
197. Here's your question.
okay,
I've heard about there being a link to the indigenous peoples of the Americas with the lost land of, how do you pronounce it?
Lemuria.
Lemuria. Do you have any information to share about this lost homeland?
Okay, Atlantis was one energy that was negative. Their power was based on basically becoming like kings and uh, kings, dictators. Lemuria was the opposite. Now, in Lemuria, there's a word called walk-ins, people who walk out of the light. And a lot of times they'll say the walk-ins walk out of the lightning bolts. But I like to basically understand Lemuria as the energy that came out of the light. And Lemuria was part of the indigenous teachings. That's why they were so respectable of everything in life. So Lemuria was basically based in the northern hemisphere, around, say, South America, Central America, North America. That's where Lemuria basically was, and most of the teachings were in North America that we call Turtle Island, because that was the heart of Lemuria. So Lemuria, yes, has a very strong connection to the indigenous people. And Lemuria, again, are star people. And they always sit there and they try to say that a lot of things are coming out now, how Native American Indians came to North America. Because for some reason, they want to insult the integrity of our history, of our winter counts that basically say the people went from here to Europe, Asia, and Africa. And then the final insult, they call us Native American Indians, saying that we migrated and that it's all right to hate us because this land never belonged to us. So everything seems to be geared on a thing that they have their archaeology studies completely wrong. But now, like I said before in the last one, they're starting to find evidence that there was a superior race here in the Northern Hemisphere. But if you were a superior race and you came to the Earth, wouldn't you want to go home every once in a while?
All
So
right, I'd
that's
like to
why,
go there now.
yeah, and that's why they could never find really all that evidence they had that the Star people came to North America. So, but they're starting to uncover things now that they really don't understand. That there's a radio beacon coming from the Antarctica, and that they can't understand where it's coming from. They're finding cities there, which basically proves the fact that the natives, the indigenous people, basically said at one time Antarctica was a tropical continent. But now they're starting to find it was. It drifted, just like the axis always switches. So we get different type of weather because again, the axis shifted again. But Lemuria again is that of the light. And like I said, Atlantis was the opposite. It was the dark side.
What happened to Lemur? I can't pronounce it.
I
Lemuria.
always got a feeling that they got frustrated and just left because of all the cruelty and all the madness that was going on the earth. But they did say they would return.
Well, I did a quick Google search to for the term because I hadn't heard of it before this question was asked, and it was saying, where was it? I can't find it now. That it sank to the bottom of the Indian Ocean is one myth. But if
Yeah.
you're saying it's in North America, is that the same thing? Did it sink or is it still there, the land, and
Oh,
it's
but
just
Lemuria is an energy.
right?
And it's just like, say, for instance, you're a teacher and you're teaching your kids, but they don't want to learn. How long before you just give up and go home? So Lemuria, again, the energy, the life force energy is part of them. And thank goodness that they believe in love. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So they're still trying to hope that people will finally open their eyes and open their heart and see the truth of the pathway that they're supposed to be taking.
That's interesting what you were just saying there, because that takes me back to Hawkins. And I hadn't quite finished what I was saying. He was saying a person like yourself, because you got the higher level of consciousness compared to somebody in grief and pride and all that. Your energy as such, your consciousness, cancels out the negativity of, say, a million negative people. And so, what you were just saying about the Lemurians, or I'm pronouncing it
Uh-huh.
wrong, being love, is why we're still here. Kind of ties in with that. So, was Lemuria, I can't say it, can I? Was this place a real place, though, geographically?
Yeah, when you look at the whole concept of Lemuria, it is a life force energy that took a shape, took a form, came to the earth, and found that the indigenous people were very much connected. They still understood where they came from. So the connection was an energy connection. And when you look at it, they followed that energy for thousands and thousands and thousands of years until migration came to North America, to Turtle Island. And that's when things started to change. Lemuria is still here. We're still connected to Lemuria through our life force energy. But that's why I always say you have to basically find the source of your power, the source, the candle that you belong to. And once you find that candle, you're connected to Lemuria.
You didn't really say whether I'm guessing that it's not a geographical place. However, Atlantis, which was connected to the dark side, was that actually a geographical place, or was that just a dark energy then?
Mostly, again, it's good that we have a choice in life. And the negative side can become very powerful because they control the mind. The life force energy connection controls your heart, controls your connection. So again, evilness wins because we're too much in the mind. education puts us into the mind. Everything we do basically reflects control of the mind. Very little things are out there, but they're simple for you to connect through your life force energy to one of the 144,000 points of light. But because people are brainwashed, how do you get back to who you really are?
Well, I'm glad you just wrapped up there because we've got 1 minute left on this
Okay.
recording. I want a straight yes or no answer here with no waffle, even though I love your waffle.
Yeah.
Was Atlantis a real geographical place?
Yes.
Okay, that'll do for me.
I was going to say, tell the people I'm at the spaceship with the door open to see how many people are going to follow me.
There you go. And on that note, we will wrap up and hopefully we will see you next week. Rangman 197. I hope that answered your question. And that is it. Thank you for tuning in to the Straight Talk Sacred Pathway podcast. I hope you'll come back for our next episode next week. And if you've got any questions you'd like me to put to Wa-Na-Nee-Che, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. Details should be in the description where you're listening to this podcast.